Based on all that we've said, which specific constitutional reforms would you say should be prioritized within the next within the medium term, say the next 3-5 years?
Okay, thank you. So I will, even as far as that, yes, the attempt that is ongoing, the Constitution Review Committee is work. We should have just one time, amendment, and then we leave the school for the Parliament, and then, as we have suggested, that the Supreme Court to give us further guidance. So on that tangent, I will want to start with the executive. That when it comes to the executive, what should we have in terms of, cutting down the power of the president and the other things? Okay, but briefly at this point, I will want to look at the appointment of ministers of state. Giving a blanket check to the president to appoint as many ministers of state is a dangerous one. Knowing our economy and the sectors that we have, we should come to a determination. Now we have a benchmark, 50 ministers. So if we want to be generous and say not exceeding, let's say 60, that should suffice.
How about the suggestion by say Osei Chairman Sabonsu that says the Constitution says cabinet should be made up of up to 19, a seal of 19. So you look at, say, 19 ministries with ministers, and if there's a need for deputy ministers, maybe, but you cannot go beyond having more than 19 ministries. And in this case, it would include the Attorney General, who is supposed to be a part of cabinet at all costs.
Yes, thank you. Yes, so that can be a pointer as to looking at the number, the ideal number to deal with. But I will want to assume that will be on the low side. Looking at even currently, if we are doing 60, are we doing 60?
We're at 56 now.
So assuming we are dealing with 60 and you're talking about 19, that would definitely be on the low side, because the sectors.
19 plus 16, regional ministers will be 16. That takes it to 35. And if you were to do deputy of the sectorial, it gives you an additional 19. You're looking at 54, maybe. So maybe we can peg it at 50. That should work.
Well, I will be okay with that. At least suffices that at least we have a certain number to look at, so that we don't have a number as we've seen in the previous administration. But importantly, I will want to see a complete separation between the executive and the legislature, that no minister of state should be appointed from Parliament, so that there will be complete separation between these two arms. The difficulty, besides the fact that doubling as a minister of state and as MP prejudices your work as an MP, because of course we know the how serious and how engaging the portfolio of a minister is. It will not permit you to do your parliamentary work. That is not, it's obvious. It's obvious. And then you have very interesting cases of, if you have a minister who is also a member of parliament, that minister may even present or move a motion in parliament or something he is bringing and vote on it. To me, that is then, it is definitely, you look at the report of the committee of experts, they refer to some difficulties we had in 79, under the 79 constitution, where there was complete separation and the budgets were, rejected and all that. But I think that was trivial. The parliament represents the people. That's the people's assembly. If parliament does not respond to the needs, the aspirations of the people, they should be removed. I mean, in the next cycle of elections and all that. So you don't need a minister to double as MP before legislative agenda can be prosecuted. I don't believe in that. So definitely that should be addressed. And then, so that takes me back to Parliament. So I have suggested earlier that there should be a movement from the unicameral parliament we have, or legislature that we have now, to a bicameral one, with possible conversion of the Council of State as the second chamber. And then Article 108, which empowers a member of parliament or allows for introduction of private members' bills, must be encouraged. And then with that stop that we have in Article 108, that if a bill or even an amendment to a bill or a motion will have financial implications, then that can only be moved or introduced by a minister or someone on behalf of the president. That means that it possibly forecloses the door for private members' bills, where certain bills, as we have suggested earlier, can even be introduced to augment our governance system. So there's a complete limitation, even though there's an attempt to vest the power to determine whether a bill will have certain financial implications in the person presiding. But that has even been challenged. So you ask yourself, if a discretion is given and there are no guidelines, then how can that be challenged? But that's another matter. And then we need a parliament that will have reserved seats for women, the youth, the disabled, and other groups. We don't have to elect every member of parliament. Elections will not deliver the people we want. That's why I was so much disappointed when the focus for getting women into parliament was on election and how political parties can be compelled to produce that effect. But the reservation of seats gives you that surety, that certainty that you will have a certain number. And Nkrumah tried it for women, and we had some considerable gains. Women matters remain, regarding women can better be determined or considered by women, and the same for the youth and disabled and other groups. Okay, civil society, we can debate on as to who the reserve seat should go for, but that should happen. That should happen. So if you have a bicameral parliament, and that we are even talking about the power of the president to appoint, or in the appointment scheme for the CJ, which is the basis of the problem that we have now, it should not so much be focused on the presidency. If the president will nominate, then there should be a supervening, a higher authority that can turn down the president nomination if the need be.
Parliament can.
Parliament can, but our politically charged partisan parliament cannot produce that effect. Okay, you have one chamber parliament, so you pick US and other places where they have this kind of a procedure for appointing the CJ. You will have the intervening or the supervening power being the Senate, the upper chamber, which is less partisan. So you see that is what they do. That's why we've written on this matter earlier with a colleague, good now, Apia, that the procedure for appointing the CJ undermines the independence of the judiciary to a greater extent, because you look at the role of the CJ is so huge. The CJ can do things. Okay, so that is why the appointment scheme should be looked at again. If the president has to do it, then we should have a second chamber that we should be fashioned to make less partisan, that will determine or will do with a prior approval before the final appointment can be made. And so you go back to the judiciary, then definitely the first point I've spoken about, and capping the number of justices to the Supreme Court
and
is also key.